Lucas Alencar, a successful entrepreneur in his late 30s, leads a meticulously organized life. His days are filled with high-level meetings, luxury cars, and evenings at exclusive restaurants. Despite the apparent perfection of his routine, there is a lingering emptiness he refuses to acknowledge. Lucas's relationship with Isabella, a brilliant young lawyer, appears flawless. They are the couple everyone admires, but the surface belies Lucas's reluctance to open up emotionally. Isabella is captivated by his charm and influence, while Lucas enjoys the simplicity of their bond, free from complications and history. One evening, Lucas and Isabella dine at La Belle Vita, an upscale restaurant in the heart of the city. The air is filled with the soft hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the faint aroma of truffle risotto. Lucas leans back in his chair, sipping red wine while Isabella recounts the highlights of her day. Lucas listens attentively, yet his mind occasionally drifts. He scans the room unconsciously, a habit of his, and for a fleeting moment, his gaze lingers on nothing in particular. It's a subconscious act of searching for something he cannot name. Later that night, Lucas stands alone in his penthouse, gazing out over the city lights. In his hand is a glass of whiskey. The apartment, though elegantly decorated, feels cold. Isabella sleeps in the next room, yet Lucas feels distinctly solitary. He opens a drawer by his desk and retrieves an old photograph. It's of him and Camila, his ex-wife, taken during their early years together. The photo is slightly worn at the edges. Lucas traces the image with his thumb, recalling the warmth they once shared. Memories of their small apartment and late-night conversations flood his mind. The memory is tender, yet it leaves a sharp pang in his chest. He places the photo back carefully, locking the drawer as if to seal away the emotions that threaten to resurface. The next day, Lucas channels his unease into physical activity. At the gym, he strikes the punching bag relentlessly, drawing glances from his trainer. Lucas pushes harder, as though each punch chips away at the feelings he refuses to confront. His assistant, Maria, approaches him later that afternoon with legal documents. She informs him that the final divorce papers have arrived, requiring only his signature. Lucas signs without hesitation, showing no outward sign of emotion. Maria lingers for a moment, sensing the weight beneath his facade. Lucas thanks her curtly and returns to his work. The papers rest on his desk momentarily before being filed away. Another chapter officially closed. That evening, Lucas meets Isabella for dinner at a different restaurant. The atmosphere is lively, the food exquisite, and Lucas feels momentarily at peace. Isabella's laughter comes easily, and Lucas responds in kind, finding comfort in her presence. For the first time in weeks, Lucas feels the faintest sense of contentment. As they leave the restaurant, Isabella takes his hand, and for a brief moment, Lucas allows himself to believe that perhaps this life, calculated, structured, and uncomplicated, might truly be enough. Hello guys. If you like our stories and haven't subscribed yet, support our work and subscribe to the channel to help us. It is another seemingly ordinary evening when Lucas and Isabella return to La Belle Vita for dinner. The restaurant is buzzing with quiet conversations and the soft clinking of glasses. Lucas feels unusually at ease, genuinely enjoying Isabella's company. As the waiter refills their glasses, Lucas's attention shifts momentarily across the room. At first, his gaze slides over the other patrons without focus, until his eyes lock onto a figure near the entrance. Camila Duarte. She stands with her hand resting on the back of a chair, speaking softly to the hostess. Her long, dark hair cascades over her shoulder, but it's not her presence alone that grips Lucas's attention. Camila's silhouette is unmistakably altered. The soft curve of her stomach reveals she is visibly pregnant. Time seems to halt. Lucas's mind races, struggling to process the sight before him. Isabella notices his sudden stillness. She follows his gaze and her expression subtly shifts. "Lucas," she asks, her voice low. Lucas barely registers her question. His eyes remain fixed on Camila, who, after a brief exchange with the hostess, begins walking toward a distant table. She hasn't noticed him. Lucas's grip tightens around his glass. 1,000 questions flood his mind. How long has she been back in the city? Who is the father? Why hadn't he known about this? Isabella leans in slightly. You know her? Lucas finally tears his gaze away, meeting Isabella's curious yet cautious eyes. She's my ex-wife, Lucas says quietly, placing his glass down with deliberate care. Isabella's lips part slightly, surprise flashing across her face. I didn't know she was in town. Neither did I, Lucas replies, his tone clipped. The remainder of the dinner is subdued. Isabella tries to keep the conversation flowing, but Lucas's responses grow increasingly absent. His mind remains tethered to Camilla's sudden reappearance and the overwhelming realization that she is expecting a child. As they leave the restaurant, Lucas can't resist glancing toward Camilla's table one last time. She is seated with a friend, her hand resting protectively on her stomach as she laughs softly. The image lingers in Lucas's mind long after the night ends. Days pass, but the image of Camilla doesn't fade from Lucas's mind. Her presence, unexpected and undeniable, haunts his thoughts during meetings, late at night, and in fleeting moments of solitude. Lucas tells himself it's best left alone. Camilla has clearly moved on, and whatever life she now leads doesn't concern him. After all, their chapter closed the day he signed the divorce papers. Yet, the questions persist. One evening, Isabella notices his distraction as they share drinks on Lucas's balcony. The skyline stretches endlessly before them, but Lucas's eyes are distant. You've been quiet lately, Isabella remarks, swirling the wine in her glass. Is it about her? Lucas hesitates, choosing his words carefully. It's nothing. Just surprised to see her after all this time. Isabella studies him for a moment. She's pregnant, Lucas. I know, Lucas replies, his voice steady but soft. Isabella places her glass down. Look, I don't know much about your past with her, but if there's something unresolved, you should talk to her. Lucas shakes his head. There's no need. It's her life now. Despite his words, Lucas's unease grows. In the days that follow, he takes a different route to work to avoid passing by places Camilla might frequent. He convinces himself it's for the best. Camilla deserves peace, and so does he. But peace eludes him. Lucas pours his energy into work, taking on additional projects and late meetings. He schedules dinners with Isabella at new restaurants, filling every empty moment to drown out the lingering thoughts. One afternoon, as Lucas leaves his office, Maria approaches with a hesitant look. Mr. Alencar, she begins. Someone left this for you at reception. She hands him a small envelope. Lucas opens it to find a handwritten note. The handwriting is unmistakable, Camilla's. Lucas reads the simple line inside. I didn't expect to see you either. His heart races. Lucas places the note carefully in his jacket pocket and heads home. That night, as the city hums quietly below his penthouse, Lucas sits alone with the note resting on the table in front of him. He contemplates calling Camilla or even responding, but instead, he extinguishes the light and retires to bed, leaving the note unopened beneath the soft glow of the city lights. Lucas finds himself at his private gym early one morning, seeking refuge in routine. The rhythmic pounding of his fists against the heavy bag provides a temporary escape. Carlos, his longtime trainer and friend, enters, watching silently as Lucas continues his relentless assault on the bag. You're going to break that thing, Carlos comments with a smirk. Lucas steps back, breathing heavily. Good. I'll order another one. Carlos tosses him a towel. Or you could tell me what's really going on. Lucas wipes his face, avoiding eye contact. I'm fine, Carlos. Carlos crosses his arms. I've known you for years, Lucas. You're not fine. Lucas leans against the wall, the weight of recent events pressing down. For a moment, he considers brushing it off but reconsiders. I saw Camilla, Lucas admits quietly. Carlos raises a brow. Camilla? As in, yes. Carlos lets out a low whistle. Didn't think you two kept in touch. We don't. It wasn't planned. I saw her at a restaurant, Lucas hesitates. She's pregnant. Carlos's expression shifts, softening with understanding. That explains the look on your face. Lucas chuckles bitterly. I can't stop thinking about it. But what's the point? She's moved on. Carlos steps closer. Maybe, but you haven't. You've been carrying this for a long time, Lucas. I saw it when you two split. Lucas meets his gaze. I thought I could bury it. Carlos places a hand on his shoulder. You can't bury the past, Lucas. Sooner or later, it finds its way back. Lucas absorbs the words in silence. Carlos continues, you don't have to fix everything overnight. But maybe it's time you stop running from it. Lucas nods slowly. Maybe you're right. As Lucas leaves the gym that morning, Carlos's words linger. The weight on Lucas's chest feels slightly lighter. Though the road ahead remains uncertain, the idea of confronting his past no longer seems impossible. Lucas stands outside a quiet cafe on a crisp afternoon, clutching the note Camila left for him. The interior of the cafe is softly lit, and through the glass window, he spots her sitting near the back. She stirs a cup of tea, her gaze lost in thought. Lucas hesitates, unsure if stepping inside is the right decision. His instincts tell him to walk away, to let the past remain untouched. Yet, something stronger compels him forward. As Lucas enters, Camila's eyes lift, meeting his. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Her expression is calm, though guarded. Lucas approaches her table, and she gestures subtly toward the seat across from her. I wasn't sure you'd come, Camila says softly, breaking the silence. Lucas settles into the chair, his hands resting on his lap. I wasn't sure either. Camila studies him for a moment before offering a faint smile. You haven't changed much. Lucas returns the gesture. I'd say the same, but clearly things are different. His eyes flicker to her rounded stomach. Camila instinctively places her hand over it. Yes, a lot can happen in a year. Lucas leans slightly forward, unable to contain the question pressing on his mind. Camila? Is it mine? Camila's gaze softens, but she doesn't immediately respond. Instead, she takes a slow sip of tea, as if weighing her words. I'm not here to make this complicated for you, she finally says. I've built a new life for myself, and I wasn't planning on bringing you into it. Lucas's jaw tightens. I deserve to know. Camila meets his eyes, her voice steady. Yes, Lucas, the baby is yours. The words hit him with unexpected force, leaving him momentarily speechless. Lucas leans back in his chair, running a hand through his hair as he exhales slowly. I wish you had told me sooner, he says quietly. Camila's expression turns somber. I wasn't sure how you'd react. After everything that happened between us, I thought it was better this way. Lucas shakes his head. You didn't have to go through this alone. I wasn't alone. I had support from friends, and I needed time to figure things out for myself. Camila replies gently. I wasn't ready to face you again. Lucas rests his elbows on the table, hands clasped together. I don't want to be a stranger in this child's life, Camila. I know I made mistakes, but I can't walk away from this. Camila's eyes search his face, as if gauging his sincerity. I'm not asking you to walk away, but I need to know if you're ready for this. This isn't just about showing up when it's convenient. Lucas nods firmly. I understand, and I'm ready. For the first time since their encounter, Camila's expression softens into something resembling trust. They sit in silence, the weight of the past beginning to shift. The path ahead is uncertain, but for Lucas, stepping through that threshold feels like the first step toward redemption. In the weeks following their conversation at the cafe, Lucas makes a conscious effort to reconnect with Camila. Though their meetings are brief and often practical, doctor's appointments, casual walks, and nursery shopping, Lucas senses the unspoken tension lingering between them. One evening, Lucas arrives at Camila's apartment with a box of baby essentials. Camila answers the door, surprised by his unannounced visit. You didn't have to bring all this, she says, stepping aside to let him in. Lucas places the box near the crib. I wanted to. It's the least I can do. Camila watches him quietly as he unpacks diapers and clothes. You don't have to prove anything, Lucas. He pauses, glancing over his shoulder. I'm not trying to prove anything. I just want to be involved. Camila folds her arms, leaning against the kitchen counter. You're doing more than I expected. Lucas sets the last item down and straightens up. I missed a lot, Camila. I'm not going to miss this. Their conversation is interrupted by the doorbell. Camila opens it to reveal Isabella, standing with an envelope in hand. Her eyes widen slightly upon seeing Lucas inside. Lucas! Isabella's voice is calm, but the tension is palpable. Camila steps aside, glancing between them. I'll give you two a moment. She retreats to the next room, leaving the door partially open. Isabella approaches Lucas, offering the envelope. I found this in the mail. It's from your office. Lucas takes the envelope, nodding in appreciation. Thank you. Isabella's gaze lingers on him. You didn't mention you were helping Camila. Lucas exhales softly. I wasn't sure how to bring it up. Isabella's expression hardens, though she maintains her composure. You've been distant, Lucas. I thought we were building something, but it feels like part of you never left the past. Lucas meets her eyes. I didn't expect any of this, Isabella, but this is my child. You can't ignore that. A flicker of disappointment crosses Isabella's face. I understand. I just wish you had been honest with me. Lucas reaches for her hand, but Isabella steps back. I need time to think, Lucas. Maybe you do too. Without another word, she turns and leaves. Camila steps back into the room moments later, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Is everything all right? Lucas forces a smile. It will be. As Lucas immerses himself further into Camila's world, he begins to realize the depth of the emotional barriers he must overcome. Camila, despite her warmth, remains guarded. Lucas's past actions still cast a shadow over their interactions. One afternoon, they visit the baby's future pediatrician. As they sit in the waiting room, Camila absently flips through a parenting magazine. Lucas studies her closely, recalling the ease with which they once shared their lives. Do you ever think about us? Lucas asks suddenly. Camila lowers the magazine but doesn't meet his gaze. Sometimes, Lucas leans forward, elbows resting on his knees. I know I hurt you, Camila, but I've changed. I'm not the same person I was back then. Camila finally looks at him, her eyes filled with cautious sincerity. I want to believe that, Lucas, but change takes time, and trust isn't built overnight. Lucas nods, accepting her words. I'm willing to wait. In the months leading up to the baby's birth, Lucas continues to navigate the delicate balance between his new role as a father and his unresolved feelings for Camila. Despite the obstacles, Lucas remains determined. But he knows that the greatest challenge lies ahead, the moment when he must confront not only Camila's doubts but his own deepest fears. Lucas sits alone in his office late at night, the city lights stretching endlessly beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. His desk is cluttered with contracts and reports, yet his attention drifts to a single ultrasound photo Camila had given him weeks earlier. He traces the edges of the image, lost in thought. The weight of impending fatherhood grows heavier by the day, and with it, the unrelenting question, what if he isn't ready? Maria steps in quietly, placing a fresh stack of documents on his desk. She hesitates before speaking. Long night again? Lucas offers a faint smile. Seems like they all are. Maria lingers at the doorway. You know, Lucas, not everything can be solved by burying yourself in work. He sets the ultrasound photo down, tapping it lightly with his finger. I thought I'd feel more prepared by now. Maria softens her tone. No one's ever fully prepared. But showing up, that's what matters. Lucas nods, appreciating her words, though doubt still gnaws at him. Later that evening, Lucas stands outside Camila's apartment building, the ultrasound photo still tucked in his jacket pocket. He isn't sure why he came. Perhaps for reassurance, or maybe just to feel closer to the life he's about to step into. Before he can turn away, the entrance door opens. Camila steps out, bundled in a light coat, surprised to find him there. Lucas. He straightens, shoving his hands into his pockets. I was just passing by. Camila raises a brow but lets it slide. I was heading out for some air. Want to join me? They walk in comfortable silence through the nearby park. The cool breeze carries the faint scent of blooming flowers, and the city hums softly in the distance. After a while, Camila speaks. I can tell something's on your mind. Lucas exhales slowly. I've been thinking a lot about the baby. About us. Camila's gaze drops to the path ahead. Lucas, I know you want to be involved, but I'm scared. We've tried this before. He stops, gently taking her hand, causing her to pause. I'm not the man I was when we were married. I've made mistakes, but I won't walk away this time. Camila searches his eyes, vulnerability flickering in her expression. I want to believe you, Lucas. I really do. But what happens when things get hard again? Lucas grips her hand tighter. Then I stay. No more running. Camila's hesitation lingers, but a part of her softens, letting him hold onto that sliver of trust. As they continue their walk, Lucas knows this is only the beginning of the battle he must face, earning back not only Camila's trust but his own belief that he can be the father and partner she needs him to be. A soft rain patters against Lucas's windshield as he parks outside the hospital. The lights of the maternity wing glow faintly through the fog, and Lucas grips the steering wheel, steadying his breath. Camila had called earlier. Her contractions had started. Lucas steps out of the car, rushing through the entrance. The sterile scent of the hospital fills his senses as he navigates the hallways. At the reception desk, a nurse directs him to Camila's room. He pauses outside the door, listening to the faint sound of Camila's voice from within. There is a calm strength to her tone, yet he detects the underlying exhaustion. Lucas pushes the door open gently. Camila lies in bed, her hair damp and face pale but calm. Beside her, a nurse adjusts an IV drip. You made it, Camila says, managing a small smile. Lucas approaches, his concern evident. Of course. How are you feeling? Like I'm about to bring a person into the world, she replies, trying to ease the tension with humor. Lucas sits beside her, taking her hand. The weight of the moment settles over him, more profound than he expected. Hours pass. Lucas remains by Camila's side, stepping away only when necessary. The labor progresses slowly, each contraction intensifying. Camila's grip tightens around his hand, and he can feel her pain with every breath she takes. At one point, Camila's resolve falters. Tears well in her eyes, and she squeezes Lucas's hand with desperation. I can't do this, she whispers, her voice breaking. Lucas leans closer, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. You're the strongest person I know. You can do this, Camila. I'm here. We'll do it together. Camila meets his eyes, searching for reassurance. Lucas's unwavering presence seems to steady her. She nods, exhaling deeply. As the final moments of labor arrive, the room fills with urgency. Doctors and nurses move swiftly, their voices calm but firm. Lucas remains at Camila's side, encouraging her through each push. Finally, a faint cry echoes through the room. Lucas's heart leaps as the doctor gently places the newborn in Camila's arms. Camila's eyes fill with tears as she cradles the baby, brushing her lips against the infant's forehead. Lucas watches in awe, his chest tightening with emotions he can't fully comprehend. She's perfect, Camila whispers. Lucas places a hand on Camila's shoulder, overwhelmed by the sight of his daughter. In that moment, everything shifts. The doubts, the guilt, and the fear that had consumed him dissolve. All that remains is the overwhelming love for the tiny life in Camila's arms, and the undeniable certainty that he is exactly where he's meant to be. The soft hum of the hospital room fills the space as Lucas sits by Camila's bedside. She rests with the baby in her arms, her breathing steady but fatigued. The infant stirs slightly, eyes fluttering open for the first time. Lucas leans closer, mesmerized by the tiny face that now feels like his entire world. Camila glances at him, a quiet smile tugging at her lips. She has your eyes, she murmurs. Lucas reaches out, gently touching the baby's small hand with his fingertip. The baby's fingers curl instinctively around his, and Lucas feels an unexpected warmth spread through his chest. "I still can't believe she's here," Lucas says softly. Camila's eyes drift closed for a moment. "Neither can I." They sit in silence, the weight of the moment sinking in. Lucas's heart swells with pride, but there's also a lingering trace of fear that this fragile piece might slip away if he isn't careful. Camila senses his hesitation. "Lucas, you don't have to prove yourself to me every day. I see how much you care. You're already doing more than I expected." Lucas looks at her, his expression earnest. "I know I wasn't there before, Camila, but I won't let either of you down now. Promise." Camila studies his face for a long moment, searching for any hint of doubt. She finds none. "I believe you," she says quietly, her voice full of sincerity. Lucas leans in, pressing a gentle kiss to Camila's forehead. For the first time in years, he feels as if a part of him that had been missing has returned. Later that night, as Camila drifts off to sleep, Lucas cradles the baby in his arms, rocking her gently. The city lights glow faintly through the hospital window, and Lucas gazes down at his daughter with awe. In her, he sees not only hope but a second chance. A chance to rewrite the mistakes of his past and build the future he once thought was out of reach. Lucas arrived at Camila's apartment just as the evening sun dipped below the horizon. The building was quiet, the soft hum of the city in the background. He balanced a bag of groceries in one hand and a small bouquet of lilies in the other. The flowers weren't extravagant, but they were Camila's favorite, something he hadn't forgotten. He knocked gently, and after a few seconds, Camila opened the door, her hair slightly tousled and her eyes heavy with exhaustion. Despite the fatigue, she smiled, stepping aside to let him in. "You didn't have to bring all this," Camila said, glancing at the groceries. Lucas shrugged. "I know, but I wanted to. Thought I could help." Camila's apartment was modest but warm, filled with soft colors and little touches of personality. A few baby toys lay scattered on the couch, and the faint hum of a white noise machine came from the nursery. Lucas set the groceries down on the kitchen counter and carefully placed the flowers in a vase he found under the sink. "How's she doing?" Lucas asked, peeking into the nursery where the baby slept peacefully in her crib. "Tired but good," Camila said, leaning against the counter. "I think she might sleep through the night if we're lucky." Lucas grinned. "Lucky for her or for you?" "Both," Camila replied, laughing softly. "It's been a lot." Lucas studied her carefully. He could see the weariness in her eyes, the weight of single motherhood pressing down on her. There was strength there too, a quiet resilience that he had always admired. "You should rest," Lucas said gently. "I can take care of her for a while." Camila hesitated, glancing at the clock. "I haven't slept much." "But go," Lucas insisted. "I've got this." She disappeared into the bedroom, and Lucas carefully lifted his daughter from the crib. Her tiny hands curled around his finger as he rocked her gently. The smallness of her, the fragility, filled Lucas with a sense of awe and responsibility he hadn't anticipated. He paced slowly around the living room, whispering to the baby. "You've got your mother's eyes," he murmured. "And her stubbornness, I bet." The baby's eyes fluttered open briefly, then closed again, her breathing soft and rhythmic. Lucas felt his chest tighten with an overwhelming sense of love and protectiveness. Camila emerged from the bedroom an hour later, rubbing her eyes. She paused at the sight of Lucas cradling their daughter, a softness crossing her features. "She didn't give you any trouble?" Camila asked, crossing the room to stand beside him. "Not at all," Lucas replied. "I think she likes me." Camila smiled, brushing her fingers lightly over the baby's hair. "She's lucky to have you." Lucas looked at Camila, his heart swelling. "I'm the lucky one." They sat together on the couch, the baby nestled between them. For the first time in months, there was a sense of normalcy, a fragile but undeniable peace settling over them. Lucas glanced at Camila. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he admitted quietly. "About how things ended." Camila's smile faded slightly, but she didn't pull away. "Lucas, we can't change the past." "I know," Lucas said, "but I want to do things differently this time. I want to be here. Not just for her, but for you too." Camila searched his face, looking for any sign of doubt or hesitation. "You really mean that?" Lucas nodded. "I do," she sighed, leaning her head lightly against his shoulder. "It's not going to be easy, you know." "I'm not expecting easy," Lucas replied, pressing a kiss to her hair. "I just want us to try." As the evening faded into night, Lucas remained at Camila's side, the weight of their shared history slowly giving way to hope. The road ahead wouldn't be simple, but for the first time, Lucas felt ready to walk it, with Camila and their daughter by his side. A week later, Lucas returned to Camila's apartment with more groceries and supplies, settling into a routine of support and care. Each time he visited, the walls between them seemed to lower piece by piece. One afternoon, as Lucas changed the baby's diaper, Camila watched him from the doorway, arms crossed but a gentle smile on her lips. "You're getting good at that," she teased. Lucas grinned. "Takes practice." Camila stepped closer, brushing her hand lightly over his. "I appreciate everything you've been doing. It means a lot." Lucas looked up at her, their faces inches apart. "I'm not going anywhere." Their eyes locked, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Camila leaned into him, resting her forehead against his. Lucas closed his eyes, savoring the closeness. "I missed this," he whispered. Camila's voice was barely audible. "Me too." As their daughter cooed softly in the crib, Lucas realized that the life he had once chased, filled with boardrooms, luxury, and fleeting relationships, no longer held the same appeal. In the quiet moments, surrounded by the two people he loved most, Lucas found the sense of home he had been missing all along. The road back wasn't just about reconnecting with Camila or stepping into the role of father. It was about rediscovering the parts of himself that he thought were lost forever. And with each passing day, Lucas felt closer to becoming the man he had always wanted to be. The first rays of morning light filtered through the curtains of Camila's apartment. Lucas sat on the edge of the couch, his daughter sleeping soundly in his arms. He hadn't intended to stay the entire night, but once the baby drifted off, he found it impossible to leave. The apartment was quiet except for the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall. Camila emerged from her bedroom, tying a loose robe around her waist. Her hair was pulled up, and the exhaustion was evident in her face, but there was something peaceful in her expression. "You stayed," she said softly, leaning against the doorway. Lucas glanced down at the baby, gently shifting her to his other arm. "I didn't want to wake her." Camila crossed the room, lowering herself onto the couch beside him. She watched Lucas carefully, as if trying to piece together the thoughts behind his calm exterior. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Lucas hesitated before nodding. "Yeah, I think it is." Camila tilted her head slightly. "You look different." Lucas smirked. "You're the one who hasn't slept in days. I should be saying that to you." She laughed softly, but the playfulness faded. Her eyes lingered on him, searching. "No, I mean it. Something's changed." Lucas's gaze dropped to the baby, who shifted slightly in his arms but remained asleep. "I guess I didn't realize how much I wanted this until now." Camila's eyes softened. "I know what you mean." They sat together in silence for a long moment. Lucas felt the warmth of Camila's shoulder brushing against his, and for the first time in years, it felt natural, like it belonged. "I'm sorry," Lucas said quietly. Camila looked up, surprised by the suddenness of his words. "For what?" "For everything. For not being there when you needed me. For walking away when things got hard," Lucas admitted, his voice heavy with regret. Camila's expression softened further, but she said nothing, allowing him to continue. "I thought I was doing the right thing by focusing on work, by providing for us. But I missed what mattered most. And I've spent a long time convincing myself that I couldn't fix it, that it was too late." Camila rested her hand on his arm, her touch gentle. "Lucas, we were both young. We made mistakes." Lucas met her gaze, his eyes reflecting the vulnerability he had long tried to suppress. But you didn't walk away. You stayed and faced it. I didn't. Camila exhaled slowly, her fingers brushing lightly over the baby's tiny hand. I was scared too, Lucas. I just didn't know how to say it. Lucas shifted slightly, adjusting the baby in his arms. I'm scared now, he admitted. But I'm not running this time. Camila smiled softly. I can see that. The baby stirred, letting out a soft whimper before settling again. Lucas brushed a finger gently over her cheek, marveling at how something so small could make him feel so grounded. I want to do this right, Lucas continued, his voice steady. Not just as her father, but with you. If you'll let me. Camila's eyes glistened with emotion. She turned to fully face him, searching for any trace of doubt. Lucas, I want that too. But we have to take it slow. We can't rush into things just because. I know, Lucas interrupted gently. And I'm willing to wait. As long as it takes. Camila smiled, leaning in to kiss his cheek softly. Thank you. They sat together, the quiet presence of their daughter binding them in a way that words couldn't. Over the next few weeks, Lucas's presence became a constant in Camila's life. He didn't just show up for the significant moments. He was there for the mundane, the midnight feedings, the early morning walks, and the afternoons spent assembling furniture for the nursery. One Saturday morning, Lucas arrived early with coffee and breakfast. Camila greeted him at the door, the baby cradled in one arm. You're becoming predictable, Camila teased, stepping aside to let him in. Lucas grinned. Predictable can be good. He set the breakfast on the counter and reached for the baby. Camila handed her over without hesitation, watching as Lucas effortlessly cradled her. She adores you, Camila noted, crossing her arms. Lucas gently rocked the baby, his eyes never leaving hers. I adore her too. Camila leaned against the counter, her gaze softening. Lucas, can I ask you something? He looked up, sensing the shift in her tone. Of course. Are you happy? She asked, her voice quieter now. Lucas's brow furrowed slightly, as if the question caught him off guard. He thought for a moment, then smiled. Yeah, I haven't felt this way in a long time. Camila nodded thoughtfully. I'm glad. Lucas stepped closer, still holding the baby. What about you? Camila's smile widened. I think I am. Lucas leaned down, brushing a soft kiss against Camila's forehead. We're getting there. As the baby cooed softly between them, Lucas realized that the life he once thought was out of reach was finally becoming his reality, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. The afternoon sun stretched lazily across the park, casting long shadows of the families scattered across the grass. Lucas pushed the stroller along the winding path, Camila walking beside him. Their daughter lay nestled beneath a soft blanket, the gentle rustling of leaves above lulling her to sleep. Lucas glanced at Camila, catching the faint smile that tugged at her lips as she watched the baby. There was a quiet contentment about her that Lucas hadn't seen in years, and it filled him with a sense of peace he hadn't realized he was missing. You're getting good at this, Camila teased, watching as Lucas adjusted the stroller's canopy to block the sun from the baby's face. Lucas chuckled. It's easier than I thought. She makes it easy. Camila arched an eyebrow. You say that now. Just wait until she starts walking. Then you'll see what chaos really looks like. Lucas laughed softly. I think I can handle it. Besides, I have you to keep me in line. Camila nudged him playfully with her elbow. You say that like I won't be just as tired. They walked in silence for a while, passing playgrounds filled with the laughter of children. Lucas couldn't help but imagine their daughter running alongside them in the future, her tiny feet chasing butterflies, her laughter echoing through the park. Felt, right, like something he had been searching for all along. As they found a bench beneath a large oak tree, Camila sat down first, carefully lifting the baby into her arms. Lucas settled beside her, stretching his arm across the back of the bench. She's growing so fast, Camila said quietly, tracing the curve of the baby's cheek with her finger. Lucas leaned in, watching the way the baby's small chest rose and fell with each soft breath. It's hard to believe she's already a few months old. Camila glanced at him, her expression softening. You've been here for everything, Lucas. I wasn't sure if you would. But you have. Lucas met her gaze, sensing the deeper meaning behind her words. I told you I wouldn't walk away again. I meant it. Camila shifted slightly, resting her head against his shoulder. I know, and I'm grateful. Sometimes I think about how different things could have been if we had figured this out sooner. Lucas kissed the top of her head gently. Maybe we weren't ready then, but we are now, and that's what matters. Camila smiled faintly, her hand resting on his knee. Yeah, I guess you're right. They sat like that for a long time, wrapped in the comfort of each other's presence. The world around them continued to move, but for Lucas, time felt suspended, frozen in this perfect, fleeting moment. Later that evening, Lucas returned to Camila's apartment, carefully placing the sleeping baby into her crib. Camila watched from the doorway, her arms crossed loosely over her chest. You know, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I used to think I'd have to do all of this alone. Lucas turned, meeting her eyes. I'm sorry you ever felt that way. Camila stepped closer, resting her hand on his arm. You're here now. That's what matters. Lucas cupped her face gently, brushing his thumb across her cheek. I'll always be here, Camila, for you and for her. Their lips met in a soft, lingering kiss, a promise sealed between them. As the baby stirred slightly in her crib, Lucas wrapped his arms around Camila, holding her close. In that moment, Lucas knew that this wasn't just a second chance. It was the beginning of something new, something stronger, and he wouldn't let it go. Hello guys, if you like our stories and haven't subscribed yet, support our work and subscribe to the channel to help us.